whether it be rubber bullets, flashbang grenades, or pellets, using them to attack civilians and communities protesting the government's illegal invasion is a danger to our democracy. Hi, welcome to Season 2 of Pamela Price Unfiltered. I'm your host, Pamela Price, and this is the space and the place for real talk. This podcast season is sponsored by the Eloise Real Estate Group. Eloise Middleton is more than a licensed real estate professional. She is a miracle worker. With over 20 years' experience in the Bay Area real estate market, Eloise specializes in residential, single-family, and income properties, including luxury homes, probate trust sales, first-time home buyers, and investors. Their motto is selling real estate is what we do, service is who we are. If you are in the market for residential real estate, call Eloise Middleton at 510-386-0547. Welcome to the show. Let's talk about it. This is life in Trump's America. How ironic. Across the country, men and women of faith are joining peaceful protests and praying for the military forces unlawfully unleashed on everyday people. Shockingly, Trump's Gestapo troops have targeted pastors peacefully praying for them. In Chicago and in Oakland, as pastors prayed, federal troops chose to shoot them in the head in a manner intended to inflict injury. This clash of values is not unprecedented. In the civil rights movement of the 50s and 1960s and 70s, the faith community was ignited by the injustices and attacks on peaceful protesters in the South, and many pastors of all faiths, races, and ethnicities joined the movement to push back against these attacks. The most famous pastor in the struggle at that time was Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and he was surrounded by men and women of faith, many of them pastors of prominent jurisdictions and churches. Many of them paid the price for our progress with their lives. On May 7th, 1955, Reverend George Lee, the co-founder of the Belzoni, Mississippi NAACP chapter and the first African American to register to vote in Humphreys County, Mississippi since Reconstruction, was shot and killed. On April 7th, 1964, Reverend Bruce W. Klunder was killed in Cleveland, Ohio, when a bulldozer ran over him while he was peacefully protesting the construction of a segregated school. In March 1965, hundreds of clergymen and women joined Reverend King to march from Selma to Montgomery. On the evening of March 9th, 1965, a group of white segregationists attacked three white ministers, Orloff Miller, Clark Olson, and Reverend James Reeb. Reverend Reeb died from his injuries, leaving behind a wife and 4 children. Jonathan Myrick Daniels, an Episcopal Seminary student from Boston, was shot and killed by a deputy sheriff after a demonstration in Hayneville, Alabama. People of faith should always be called to action in the face of injustice. And again, there is a clash of values between those who believe the world can and should feed the hungry and clothe the poor, and those religious nationalists who believe God only favors a few and not the many. In America, too many white Christian nationalists firmly believe that Trump's inhumane policies, abuse of power, and attacks on everyday people are ordained by God. White Christian nationalists today, sometimes called the religious right, are the heirs of the Ku Klux Klan and other renegade racist organizations. The white Christian nationalists who pushed Donald Trump into power believe that only white people are saved and only white people are entitled to the riches of our nation. They are the ones that gave us someone like Charlie Kirk, who represented their racist values. They represent the worst in us. Even Pope Leo has condemned Trump's inhumane immigration policies. The aggressive enforcement of those policies has placed American citizens in peril and pushed our democracy past the breaking point. Stephen Miller's hatred of all non-white people has led Trump to unleash federal agents on a modern pogrom, dragging people out of their cars, tear gassing community events, and shooting pastors praying peacefully for them in the head. One has to wonder what level of depravity drives the shooters. Their behavior appears to be condoned by their commanders. But what about their fellow agents? Is it possible that every soldier deployed in our streets thinks it's okay to assault and kidnap American citizens? Do they all think it's okay to shoot peaceful protesters? Are they all on board with shooting praying pastors in the head? Recently, in episode 31 of Pamela Price Unfiltered, attorney Carl E. Douglas described the painful injuries suffered by his client, a 66-year-old filmmaker chaperoning his children at a protest, when he was shot in the face with what the military calls less than lethal weapons. Whether it be rubber bullets, flashbang grenades, or pellets, using them to attack civilians and communities protesting the government's illegal invasion is a danger to our democracy and should be condemned by everyone. Will the Southern Baptist Convention, the United Methodist Church, or the National Baptist Convention, or the leaders of the religious right also condemn these assaults on clergy? Reverend Jorge Batista, a pastor who was shot in Oakland, California, said this: "When people see faith leaders standing in the line of fire, I hope they understand that it's not because we seek attention or confrontation. Our presence as pastors, rabbis, imams, and lay leaders is meant to be a moral mirror. It reminds the world that this is not normal." This podcast season is also sponsored by Lawyers for the People. Lawyers for the People represent clients who have suffered serious injuries or death from police or negligent jail deputies and medical staff. Lawyers for the People was founded by Dante Pointer and Patrick Bullner, two former associates of John Burris. They believe in using the law as a sword and a shield for their clients. They handle personal injury, civil rights, employment discrimination, jail abuse, and police brutality cases all over California. They don't just talk about results, they get them. Call 510-617-1938 for a free case consultation. This season is also sponsored by the Shukla Law Firm, a leading San Francisco law firm that advocates for employee rights. Attorney P. Bobby Shukla is the 2024 San Francisco Trial Lawyers Association Trial Lawyer of the Year, with a winning record against major corporations and government agencies for harassment, discrimination, retaliation, whistleblowers, and pay equity. When you need a trusted advocate to get your voice heard and want action, call the Shukla Law Firm at 415-847-3983. Thanks for tuning in to Pamela Price Unfiltered. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And please sign up as a paid subscriber to my Substack newsletter to read the weekly word from Pamela Price Unfiltered. Your support keeps the conversation raw and unfiltered. And you can listen to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts.